Good evening. Happy Wednesday, midweek. I hope you're all healthy and safe today. Greetings to the 12 tribes of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that are scattered according to the Bible prophecy into the four corners of the earth and who are now awakening as to who they are and who their God is. Father Yah, greetings. And to the 144,000 among them who are now being prepared to give a final call for Yah's chosen to come out of Babylon before this whole system is completely annihilated. Greetings. Blessings and greetings to the Gentiles who have, in spite of all odds and in spite of the opposition of their cousins, have decided to follow the Hebrew Messiah, the line of the tribe of Judah, and join with the scattered Israelites in preparation for the return of the Hebrew Messiah soon to come. Greetings. Blessings upon those that are working in the healthcare field and the first responders, trying in these last days to save human lives, and those that pick up garbage for us to keep streets and sidewalks clean, many of them in chain gangs, and those also that make deliveries for our convenience, often for tips. Double blessings on those men and women trying to help deliver and rescue the victims of child molestation, victims of pedophilia, the victims of prostitution and child prostitution, the victims of pornography and child pornography and human trafficking and sex slavery, who are also seeking to arrest, stop, convict the perpetrators, the perverts, and the profiteers that traffic in this human misery. And may they be double cursed. Finally, blessings upon the homeless. Nearly 600,000 men, women, and children on the streets of the United States of America, and millions around the world in similar or worse conditions. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom. Greetings to brothers and sisters in the chat. Sister Wade, Brother Kelly, righteous is the way, maturity approach. Brother Mark, Zadok, Chaplain Lewis, and others. Greetings to all of you as we are embarking on the final years of this world's history, the way it now stands, this order of Babylon. And as we are now embarking on an awakening that finds the true Hebrews all over the earth awakening, as I mentioned in the opening, to who they are, who their true God is, and to his word. Certain things we have to, comes to our mind. Certain things we have to deal with. Number one, for example, as Brother Malcolm X was awakening, his awakening was very similar to what's going on now. The only thing was he wasn't quite as advanced as we are now. The Bible says the path of the just is as a shining light that shineth more and more unto the perfect day. That's Proverbs 4:18. So his path of light was less advanced than ours, not because we are smarter than Malcolm X, but because we are closer to the end than Malcolm X was. We are in a more fuller awakening than he was. And so his awakening, in terms of awakening to who he was and awakening to the plight of his people, was a little bit like the Bible describes it, looking through a glass darkly compared to where we are. Okay? And there'll be people just ahead of us that are going to see it even clearer than we do. I'll say all that to say, when Brother Malcolm's solutions to the problem of the Hebrews, and he did call us Hebrews, in the United States, his solutions included political solutions. His solutions included going to different various areas where he knew Hebrews were, such as Africa and the Caribbean. And then he discovered there were Hebrews in France and in London and in the West, from the West Indies. And his idea was to bring all of us together. And he created an organization called the Organization of Afro-American Unity. And he was also creating similar organizations in other countries with other leaders with the intent of bringing everybody together to understand we're all in the same boat. At the same time, he was also seeking to bring the United States of America up on charges before the United Nations for abusing their citizens in the same way that South Africa had been brought up on charges for abusing their citizens. Before he could do all that, we know now he was murdered. And we know that he was murdered with at least the complicit the United States government. These are documented facts. So I'm not making this stuff up, nor is it a conspiracy theory. The United States government was behind the murder of Fred Hampton. That's not a conspiracy theory. That is, now we understand, a fact. Now, the interesting thing, the reason I bring that up, for a couple of reasons. Number one, we need to understand that at the time those things happened, okay, for somebody to say, well, the FBI had something to do with it, the CIA had something to do with it, they were working with local police to have these men killed, these brothers killed, at the time, it would have been called a conspiracy theory. But as years go by and light of truth grows brighter, things come out. You see, brethren, everything's going to come out eventually. Everything's going to come out. Eventually, everything's going to come out, okay? So whatever's being hidden at one time is going to eventually come out, like how did John F. Kennedy was murdered. That's going to come out. Just like these other things I just mentioned came out already, okay? These things are going to be made light. But my point in bringing up these issues is our brothers, Fred Hampton, Malcolm X, they were seeking a political solution to our problem, okay? They were seeking a political solution and different ways. Fred Hampton was through the Black Panther Party, self-defense. Malcolm X was, he would call it Black nationalism. But as now we are awakening, we are understanding that the whole system is against us. And we learn that from the Bible. Okay, we learn that from the Bible. First, we learn from the Bible when you're looking at scriptures such as Deuteronomy chapter 28, Leviticus chapter 26, when you're looking at scriptures such as Ezekiel chapter 36, chapter 37, chapter 38, chapter 39, when you're looking at Jeremiah chapter 30, chapter 23, Isaiah chapter 11. I hope you're catching all this because you could go back and look. I'm giving you all kinds of witnesses. Isaiah chapter 11, Isaiah chapter 13 and 14, 12, 13, and 14. You're understanding who the true Hebrews are. Look at Exodus chapter 4, 5, 6. You're understanding who the true Hebrews are. And in understanding who the true Hebrews are according to the Bible, you see, in fact, I was talking to somebody just the other day. They were telling me that someone close to them had opinions about the Bible, strong ones, questioning if the Bible was real. And of course, what am I about to say? You should know what I'm about to say. That person that had these questions never read the Bible. Which is the situation with most people that have these type of questions and doubts. They have never read the Bible. Oh, they've read parts of it. They may have read a few Psalms or a few chapters, even a few books within it, but have never completely read the book. And then we'll have all kinds of issues with it. But those of us that really have read it, that started at Genesis and finished at Revelation and did it multiple times, you will understand there's no book on the planet like this book. And again, the reason that this book stands alone is because of its prophetic utterance. The prophecies, in fact, show us who we really are, show us where we come from, show us where we are now, and show us where we're going. And so our solution is not a political solution. Our solution is a supernatural solution. Okay, our solution is a supernatural solution, not a political solution, because we're not going to be able to overcome the problem, as Malcolm X would call it. The problem is still here, he would say. The problem is still here, he would say. He would say there was a white man named Lincoln that passed the Emancipation Proclamation to solve the problem, and the problem is still here. Then he would say 100 years later, a man named Kennedy said he's going to solve the problem, and the problem is still here. And we know they passed all kind of, as he said, they passed all kind of amendments to the Constitution supposedly to solve the problem, and the problem is still here. As we read the Bible, we understand the solution to our problem is spiritual. Okay, it's spiritual. It's not political. It's not organizational. It's spiritual. Now, Messiah taught us to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. And this is the thing now. I'm going to give you some scriptures now. Again, when you read the whole Bible, you understand that you're putting scriptures together. You're not looking at one verse and making all kind of assumptions about it. You're putting scriptures together. So, for example, when I was in the SDA church, they were very strongly committed to making every member promise not to drink alcohol. Making every member promise not to drink alcohol. So in other words, when you become a member of the SDA church, one of the commitments you make is to not drink alcohol. That means no wine, no beer, no hard drink, no alcohol. And then some people would ask, but Jesus drank alcohol. And they would just laugh. They wouldn't answer the question. They would just say, wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. And then there are other scriptures that say wine make the heart of man glad. And then we see during feasts they drank wine and strong drink. So what is it? Well, when you put it all together, what your understanding is, it's no problem to drink wine. In fact, sometimes if you're sick, it says drink it for your stomach, but respect it, because it'll make you look stupid if you don't. It can make your heart glad and it can mock you. But you have to have a balance because you have the whole Bible perspective on the subject. Okay? And that's just an example. You must have the whole Bible understanding of a subject. So Malcolm X, again, he's one of my favorite ones. So I study him and I study and I see where he made mistakes and I understand where he was coming from. I think we all do as Hebrews. And so he would say, these, what do you call them? These Uncle Tom preachers are teaching us to turn the other cheek, he said, and not defend ourselves and to be meek in the face of getting slaughtered. I'm paraphrasing. But he was right. They were doing that. And they were being paid to do that. But didn't the Messiah did say, if your brother smites you, if somebody smites you on one cheek, turn the other also? And didn't he say, pray for your enemies? So what is it then? You look at Jeremiah, and let's look at Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 24. Jeremiah chapter 24. Jeremiah chapter 24. It's a short chapter. There's only 10 verses, but it kind of highlights what we want to talk about today. So Jeremiah chapter 24, beginning at verse 1, I'm going to read from verse 1 to 10. Notice what he says. Yahweh showed me, and behold, 2 baskets of figs were set before the temple of Yahweh. After that, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had carried away captive Jeconiah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah. And the princes of Judah with the carpenters and the smiths from Jerusalem had brought them to Babylon. One basket had very good figs, like the figs that figs that are first ripe. The other basket had very naughty figs, which could not be eaten, they were so bad. Then said Yahweh unto me, what seest thou, Jeremiah? And I said, figs, good figs, very good. And the evil, very evil, that cannot be eaten, they are so evil. Again, the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, thus saith Yahweh, the Most High of Israel. Like these good figs, so will I acknowledge them that are carried away captive of Judah, whom I have sent out of this place into the land of the Chaldeans for their good. For I will set my eyes upon them for good, and I will bring them again to this land, and I will build them and not pull them down, and I will plant them and not pluck them up. And I will give them an heart to know me, that I am Yahweh. They shall be my people, and I will be their Most High, and they shall turn unto me with all their heart. As the evil figs, which cannot be eaten, they are so evil. Surely, thus saith Yahweh, so will I give Zedekiah, the king of Judah, and his princes, and the residue of Jerusalem that remain in this land, and them that dwell in the land of Egypt, I will deliver them to be removed into all kingdoms of the earth, for their hurt to be a reproach and a proverb, to taunt and a curse, in all places whither I shall drive them. And I will send the sword, the famine, and the pestilence among them, till they be consumed from off the land that I gave unto them and to their fathers. So what was he saying? Because of the sins of our fathers, he was sending Nebuchadnezzar to destroy and to take captives. And he was telling the Israelites, don't fight with the Babylonians. I sent them. I sent them because of your sin. Don't fight with them. Obey my voice and go. And then in another place, he would say, pray for their welfare when you go among them, right? But don't fight with them, because if you fight with them, you're going to be destroyed. Now, later on, all that did happen, and they came back. And then the Romans came. They weren't supposed to fight with them. The Romans were there because of the sins of our fathers. It was prophesied. As we saw in Daniel chapter 2, Daniel chapter 7, Daniel chapter 8, Daniel chapter 10 and 11, Daniel chapter 9. The Romans are supposed to be there. It was prophesied because of the sins of our fathers. Okay? So what was he saying to them when he said, turn the other cheek? When he said, pray for your enemies. Don't fight with the Romans. Don't fight with them. I've sent them. It's prophesied. And then he said, in terms, he was talking to Hebrews about it, love one another, you brothers. Don't sue each other. Don't try to hurt each other, you Hebrew brothers. When he's talking in the Gospels, Messiah is talking to Hebrews. He's not talking to Gentiles. And he's telling them, love each other. He wasn't saying, let the Romans just beat you up. Take your stuff. He was saying, be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Don't start trouble with these people. Okay? But be wise. Handle yourself properly. Okay? And with your own selves, love each other. Now, we just read Jeremiah, and we saw how he was told by the Most High, those people that surrendered to Babylon, I'm going to be good with them. But those people that fight, I'm going to send them into all nations. Who are we? Who are you and I? We're the descendants of the rebellious ones. Are we not? We're the descendants of the rebellious ones that were sent into all nations. We're the descendants of them. And he's placed us in this land. And he's placed us here. And we have been getting slaughtered here. Okay? And worst off, we're killing each other. When he was telling, Messiah was saying turn the other cheek, he was talking about brothers. You know, we shouldn't be killing each other. But what happens is, when you put a group of people in a bad situation and you limit them to a certain area, and then you fill the area with evil, drugs, and guns, and then you send agents. Let me tell you something else here. You know how some of these gangs are formed? Some of these convicts make a deal and get let out and get let into the neighborhood for the older cats. This was back in the day for the purpose of creating the gang. So that the system was set up for us to begin to hate each other and murder each other over territory and dollars. But now that we're awakening, we can understand now. It's exposed to us. We know what's going on. The Bible says, again, Revelation chapter, chapter 12. Revelation chapter 12, it says, and the great, verse 9, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. So, and again, in verse 17, and the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of Yah and have the testimony of the Messiah. Have the faith of the Messiah, the Father's Spirit. When we're awakening, before we even were awakened, we were public enemy number one to Satan. And he will use those that he controls to try to destroy us. We have that all around us. But look, what do you do with that information? What do you do when you understand that's the case? How do you look at it when you understand there's a spirit of darkness behind the system that's been created to destroy you? How do you combat that? How do you understand when you see our brothers and sisters killing each other, destroying each other, selling each other, when you have this knowledge? How do you handle that? How do you approach it? Well, one thing for sure, when you understand the things that I just said, and you understand that to be true, one thing you know marching somewhere to Washington is not going to solve the problem. You know that's not going to solve the problem. You know there's no law they're going to create that's going to solve the problem. Number two, like I've been saying all along, you know that all the news media is lying. And they're lying to deceive you. Number three, it can't be a political solution. There's no black nationalism that's going to save us. There's no Black Panther Party for self-defense that's going to save us. It's a spirit of darkness behind the system that's built to destroy us. With that understanding, you must approach the spirit of righteousness. If you can deal with the spirit of righteousness will then respond to the spirit of darkness that's trying to destroy you. It will protect you. It will keep you. And this is the thing I am finding. I can say this on YouTube from the Bible. You know why they don't bother me about this? The only time I get in trouble on YouTube is when I mention things that they're doing. Like if I talk about the disease of COVID, or if I talk about vaccines, they'll get mad at that. But they don't get mad when I talk about the spiritual solution. You know why? Because they are convinced, the powers that control YouTube are convinced that we'll just turn the other cheek. They're convinced that we're brainwashed. They got us unblocked. And even more than all of that, they don't believe there's a Most High. They don't. They don't believe in him at all. So it goes back to Egypt again, doesn't it? Pharaoh said, who is Yah that I should let the Israelites go? There is no Yah, and not going to let the Israelites go. Same spirit is in the system of Babylon that we have right now. Same spirit, brethren. Same spirit. Okay? And the same answer is how we're going to be delivered. The God of our fathers has heard our cry, and he will deliver us. We are to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. We are to try to love each other as brothers and sisters. Now, that doesn't mean you be a fool. What do I mean? Unfortunately, a lot of our brothers and sisters in the brainwashed system have been trained to rob, to kill, to lie, to take advantage. I got people that call on me for money, and I know, and some of them will call themselves Hebrew Israelites, and I know they're not. I know they're just, just using that to try to get over. I have friends that carry Bibles and have gotten over on me for hundreds of dollars. And sometimes I just let it happen. Sometimes. Depends on my mood. I just let it happen. Because I know that they're brainwashed. They don't know. And if I have it, see, I don't lend money to people. And I'm going to tell you something. Don't lend money to nobody. Don't do it. If you can't give it up and not get it back, don't give it up. Did you hear what I said? If you're expecting to get that money back, do not give it up. Even when they say, I'm going to pay you back, don't do it. If you can't lose it, don't do it. I don't care who, and especially if it's family. You listen to me now. Especially. But if you could lose it, then lose it, because that's what they're doing. So there are, unfortunately, brothers and sisters that are brainwashed, but you got to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. You hear what I'm saying? Because this is where we are. This is the world we're in. But at the same time, and this is one of the reasons the Most High has me doing these teachings, at the same time, do your best to spread this truth, both in action, word, and deed, and by prayer in the spirit. Brothers and sisters, it's Revelation 18, and we're studying Revelation, so we're eventually going to get to this one and get into detail about it. But I just wanted to bring up really verse 1 and 2 of Revelation 18, just verse 1 and 2, just for the point we're making here. In Revelation chapter 18, verse 1 and 2, it says, and after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, is become the habitation of devils, and the hole of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Brothers and sisters, when the Bible in the book of Revelation shows you an angel coming down from heaven, what we are understanding from the book of Revelation itself is that Father has given a message to Messiah. Messiah has sent that message to the messengers on the earth, his chosen ones, by an angel. And so when the Bible says this angel has great power, this is the latter rain power that Joel talks about in the spirit that causes us to be able to give a message with a power behind it that gets the world's attention, and particularly the Hebrews in the world. And so that is a final message that's given when it says Babylon is fallen, because at that time, Babylon would have done something which we're going through right now in Revelation 13, that would cross the line in the eyes of the Most High. Just like when he came down and told Moses, I'm going to send you to go deliver my people. Okay. And he said, because I've heard their cry and I've come to deliver them. There's going to come a point where Babylon crosses the line And when they do, Father's going to send his spirit on his servants, and they're going to give a message with power. Can't conjure this power up on your own. It's a power that Father is giving us. Okay? And that's what we're praying for. That's what I'm asking y'all. That's what I'm admonishing y'all to pray for. Pray to the Most High that he give you that power. And the way you get it is by repentance and humility, by coming to our God and acknowledging our sins and the sins of our fathers, by seeking to love your brethren, by understanding we're in this Babylonian system for a reason, by understanding that by the Father's power, we're going to get out. You're going to be delivered. Now, I know to some of y'all, that's straight truth, and you understand it and you rejoice in it. But to others, they can't see it. They can't see it. Because, again, our deliverance is supernatural. And the word is showing us, as we talked about many times, there's not more than 12 more years left. According to this prophetic word, there's not more than 12 years left. We're coming down the stretch right now. Okay? And because of that, that gives us hope. It gives us hope to hang on, because 12 years is not that long. Not that long. Okay? Today, there was a major earthquake in Japan. 2 million people there without power, and a tsunami on the way. And we're hearing things like this all the time. These are signs, brethren. Right now, this war in Ukraine is very interesting. You can see what's going on. They sending $1 billion over there, but almost $1 billion already. They're giving them arms, and all of that's happening right now. And the whole world's focused on these poor people crossing the border and being refugees. But do y'all recall over the last few years how many times people have come on boats from Haiti or Africa and been drowned, men, women, and children, or been turned back? Very little attention given to that. Have you noticed that? That how refugees they said they were coming from Africa, coming through Central America, coming up through Mexico and trying to get to the border of the United States to try to get away from some bad situation that's often caused by the United States, and they're being turned away. And that we're sending $1 billion to European Ukraine. You see how corrupt this system is? And not only that, we're sending $1 billion to Ukraine. Now, look now, while we're turning away Hebrews, sending $1 billion of the U.S. taxpayers' money to Ukraine for the purpose of making Ukraine join NATO. It's wicked, man. It's totally wicked. Okay, it's totally wicked. One other thing, too, with regard to that. Don't let nobody scare you with them talking about destroying the world with nuclear war. I'm not saying that nobody will shoot off no nukes, but they're not going to destroy the world. They're not. You know why they're not going to destroy the world? Revelation chapter 7. Y'all know where I'm going. Revelation chapter 7. This is why they won't destroy the world. Revelation 7, verse 1. And after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. So 4 angels holding back winds. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living Most High. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our Most High. And therefore, why won't they be allowed? They won't be allowed to destroy the earth. Why? The Bible says that Yah's going to cut short the work in righteousness. What does that mean when he said he's going to cut the work short? A short work will he make on the earth. That's what the Bible says. And he's quoting his Old and New Testament. Why would he say that? If left to themselves and left under the power of Satan, man would have destroyed himself off the earth a long time ago. If left to themselves, going forward, next 50 years, they would destroy themselves off the earth. Brethren, greed, lust for power, and trying to be God, listen to me now, is self-destructive. It ends up enveloping itself and destroying itself. So when the Most High says he's going to make a short work, he's not going to allow them to destroy themselves. He's going to cut it short. And before he does that, he is going to seal his servants. You hear even their scientists. Listen to what their scientists are saying. For example, by the year 2050, they say now, the United States will be, the majority will be non-Caucasian. By the year 2050, the majority of the United States will be non-Caucasian. By the year 2050, there'll be places on the United States, in the United States, but around the world, that'll be uninhabitable because they'll be too hot. Have you heard these things? These things are out there. By the year 2050, their scientists, this is their scientists. The Caucasian race may not even exist because they're not having enough babies to replicate themselves worldwide by the year 2050. And let me ask yourself this question. We're dealing with a people. And again, I'm just being truthful and honest. I'm not making anything up. I'm not saying anything that everybody doesn't know, just things that people are afraid to admit. Okay? For the last 2,000 plus years, between the Medes and the Persians, the Greeks and the Romans, for the last 2,000 years, the sons of Japhet have went to South Africa, West Africa, Egypt, Africa, and took over, stole assets, and then say they discovered stuff. They went to a place that's now called Australia, took over, killed and raped the people, and said they discovered it. They came to North America, did the same thing. What's now Mexico, Central America, South America, all over. They've done the same thing. Okay? Everywhere. They've done the same thing. Come in, take over, destroy. Nobody can deny that. That's everywhere. Okay? They did the same thing in Asia. The French, the English, they did the same thing. Okay? All over the earth. And so you have a people, just think logically. You have this people that for 2 millennium has been getting their way. Nobody has been able to stop them from doing what they want to do and all the things I just named. So what do you think is going to be their reaction, or what is already their reaction, in the understanding that they may not exist in 50 years? What is going to be their reaction to understanding that they may be a minority in areas where they were in the majority? What's really going to be their reaction to that? Do you think they're just going to let that happen? So, brethren, the Most High has shown us, and it's important that we believe and understand what his word tells us, that he will keep us in the last days. He will protect his servants. The angel of Yahweh encampeth round about them that fear him, and delivereth them. O taste and see that Yahweh is good. Blessed is the man that putteth his trust in him. Israel shall be saved with an everlasting salvation, world without end. Messiah's kingdom shall be forever, even forever and ever. So, brothers and sisters, our deliverance is supernatural, and we must become part of that spirit. And the Father will give us that spirit. Matter of fact, here's something else that sounds crazy to the heathen, but y'all that are of the truth will understand. We are created to receive Father's spirit. It is ordained that we should receive Father's spirit. Our deliverance is based on us receiving Father's spirit at the end. Okay? So now, that's something right there. Again, none of the heathen that are listening to me now and the sellouts listening to me now are worried about that. They're not. They will become concerned when that spirit's on us, though. They will. It's like when the sellouts of the scribes and Pharisees arranged with the Romans to murder the Messiah, right? His own disciples did not remember what he said when he said, I will rise on the third day. His own disciples didn't remember that. But the scribes and Pharisees remembered that. And they said, you remember when he was alive, he said he's going to rise the third day? And that's when they put the guards at the tomb. Because they remembered. They didn't believe him when he said it. But after it happened, they had them guards at the tomb. Of course, that did not stop him from raising up out the tomb. Well, brothers and sisters, right now, the things I'm saying to most of the heathen, they're not hearing that. They don't even believe. They don't believe this. They don't believe it. Oh, they'll carry it, but the purpose, they got purposes to brainwash you, to deceive you with it. They use religion as the greatest brainwashing tool in human history. Religion, the greatest brainwashing tool. There's no brainwashing tool with the power of religion. Okay? Religion has messed up more millions and millions of people than anything else. And so they'll use this. What I'm dealing with when I say religion is man-made religion. Man-made religion. Okay? All man-made religions. Okay? Christianity, Islam, Catholicism, different forms. You want to see some messed up people, some people that going crazy? Look at people that's coming out of these churches. Okay? And then any other man-made cult. Okay, anyone. But we're not trusting in a religion. Remember who you are. You're not a religion. You're a nation. You're a scattered nation. And your scattered nation is the God of has the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. See, again, I hear people, mistaking the movement of Hebrew Israelites as some sort of denomination. Listen, brethren, understand we're coming out of Christianity, and I understand that. But a lot of our brothers are still, what they're doing is they're taking this truth and they're trying to churchianity it. You understand what I'm saying? They're trying to create a churchianity from it. This is not a churchianity. It's a nation. It's a nation. When Moses was leading our fathers through the wilderness from Egypt to the promised land, they weren't, it's interesting. Matter of fact, let's take a look at it in Acts chapter 7 with Stephen. Stephen mentioned it in Acts chapter 7. Acts chapter 7. Let's see. Acts chapter 7. Hold on, I'm gonna find it. Oh man, hold on. It's in Acts chapter 7 that Stephen called the nation that was coming through the wilderness, he called it the church in the wilderness. The word church, you see, today has caused us to be brainwashed in that we think denomination. Church in the Bible is not denomination. He was talking about the nation, and I'm going to find it too. He was talking about the nation. And here it is. I got it. It's verse 38. I'm going to start at verse 37 of Acts chapter 7. And actually, I'm going to start at verse 36. I'm going to start at verse 36 and read down to verse 38. Watch what Stephen said before he was murdered. He brought them out after that he had showed wonders and signs in the land of Egypt and in the Red Sea and in the wilderness 40 years. This is that Moses, which said unto the children of Israel, a prophet shall Yahweh your most high raise up unto you of your brethren, like unto me. Him shall ye hear. This is he that was in the church in the wilderness with the angel which spake to him in the Mount Sinai, and with our fathers who received the lively oracles to give unto us. So the church is representing a nation. It is not a religion. It is not a denomination. It's a nation. And look what the nation was doing. What was the nation doing? They were moving through the wilderness. Did you notice that? They were moving. What do you call something that's moving, brethren? We call it what? A movement. That's right. We call it a movement. That's what we're a part of. The awakening is a movement. And and you remember what, again, talking about the disciples and who became apostles when they were being examined or persecuted by the religious leaders of their time. You remember what Gamaliel said to them? Gamaliel was a learned scholar, you know, in the religion of the Sadducees and the Pharisees. But he said to them, be careful what you're doing with these men, he said. He said, if it be of man, it'll come to nothing. But he said, if it's from the Most High, you'll be fighting against the Most High. You can't stop it. And brethren, that was a moving of the Spirit, the early rain. And right now we're in the beginning of the latter rain, the moving of the Spirit, the final moving of the Spirit. And it cannot be stopped. And it's not a church. You see what's going on? Is some of the brethren are trying to create the template or structure of a Christian denomination as a Hebrew Israelite. Because that's what we're all used to. I remember it was about, I don't know, it was maybe 30, 20 years ago, maybe more. I was in the SDA church and I was with a brother and we were both interested in outreach. We were both interested in reaching people with what we thought at the time was the truth, right? And what I noticed and what we both agreed was that the leadership of our particular local church was more interested in growing the membership of that building than actually spreading what we thought at the time was the truth. In other words, we had maybe, I don't know, 400, 500 people come to church every week, right? They were interested in building it so that we'd have to put additions, on that building. And it didn't make sense to us because we would say, if you want this truth to spread, why won't you have, like, instead of having one building with 500 people in it, why don't you have, 10 little places with 50 people each? Because then you'd be in local neighborhoods and you'd spread it that way. And they thought, no, because the leadership, no, it's not what you wanted to do. That's not what you want to do. And I thought, that makes more sense. And then even then, and I wasn't awakened then, but I understood. I said, but wait, We could make like somebody's apartment could be a church. Somebody's basement could be a church. We don't have to have a building. Because we had paid a lot. Our people in that particular little denomination paid a lot of money. And we was up the street from this one that was literally, this was this Baptist church up the street. It was literally like a coliseum, man. It was like a football stadium. And they had paid multiple millions of dollars for it back in the day, back in the early 90s. And our church trying to compete with that. And I was like, we shouldn't be doing that. We're trying to spread the truth. But you see, brother, sisters, I started to understand. As I look back now, of course, I know now that wasn't the truth, but what I understand now, brethren, what I'm sharing with y'all is there are people that becoming the knowledge, and you can't become a Hebrew Israelite. A Gentile can be grafted into the Hebrew Israelite. But if you are bloodline, you already Hebrew Israelite. You're just discovering yourself, right? And that's the difference between a Hebrew Israelite and somebody that's an awakened Hebrew Israelite, right? You awaken. Like I said, I had a good brother of mine. He first turned me on to this, to be quite honest. He was ahead of his time. He was telling me, you need to get out that church. He used to call himself a completed Jew. He was dark in the ace of spades, and he used to just listen to the word on Sabbath, and he didn't want to come to no church. And I didn't understand it at the time. Now I do. He was up there in the Bronx, and he used to say that. He said, man, my apartment's the church. We can fellowship here. You don't need to go to no building. And then later on, when I was leaving, I left the SDA church in stages. Because I was fourth generation, so it wasn't like I just walked out when I realized that I was on one page and they was on another page. At first, what we did is we would have what we called home church. We would home church. And then we'd have people come to our house and we'd have fellowship at our house, and people would bring food, and it was always sweet when we did that. So then what the goal is if we grew, we would have it in another person's house, either take turns or have two different places and then grow from there. It never did grow that big because the people that would come from the SDA church that would come to our home church, they weren't interested in that. They were there, wanted to go back to what they call their mother church. But brethren, now that we're awakening, let me tell you, that's the way you should do it. That's the way they did it in the apostles' days. They didn't build no buildings. They would have fellowship sometimes by a riverside, sometimes in somebody's house, somebody's apartment. The building is not important. The fellowship is. And so, you know, like I said, we had some of the sweetest times. Like one time we rented a house, and we rented a house because there was several families coming together. We rented this house. Some of y'all might be here, might been there with us. We rented this house, and we took the weekend together. And everybody brought a little food. Some people brought grills. Some people brought this. Some people brought that. And we had the sweetest fellowship. And we all think, it's like, man, if we could just do this, but we couldn't because we all coming from different places. Some of us coming from great distances, and we were trying to get someplace that was equal distance to all of us. So like for most of us, it was a 3-hour trip to wherever we was meeting at. Okay. But as we continue to grow in the awakening of the spirit, don't think in terms of a building. That's Christianity. That's Christianity. That's part of our brainwash. Just think in terms of what you already got. You got an apartment. You got a house. You got a basement. People can take turns. You can be at brother so-and-so's house this week and sister so-and-so's house this week. You understand? And then if you grow, you can have one at sister so-and-so's house and one at brother so-and-so at the same time, and then get another one. And don't let it get too big. You know what I'm saying? That's how Christianity taught us. The more people in there, the more blessed we are. Isn't that how they taught us? The more people. Oh, yeah, you got 200 people. Oh, no, you get to 1,000. You get to no. No. That's not the way it is supposed to operate. We are supposed to be in a situation. They used to call it a Sabbath. In fact, they still in a Sabbath day journey in the Bible. What's that mean? You could get to your fellowship by walking. Now, we can't do that because we too spread out right now. But as we grow, please don't think of this in terms of getting a whole bunch of people like to be big. That's not what it's about. This is more quality over quantity. You understand? This is more quality over quantity. It's not about how many. Babylon taught us to think about how many. It's not about how many. How rich. How rich in the spirit is it? We can't, you understand? As we are growing in this awakening, we're going to be thinking different. As I mentioned earlier, the people that run this earth, the people that are in charge of Babylon and the sellout, they care more about a temporary dollar than a long-term kingdom. If they can't touch it, feel it, make love to it, put it in their pocket, they don't believe in it. But we who are awakening by the Spirit, we are thinking longer term than that. You understand? And so we can't think the way Babylon has taught us to think on the spiritual level. Again, there's 3 steps to coming out of Babylon. There's 3 phases. Let me put it this way. There's 3 phases to coming out of Babylon. The first phase is the most important phase. That's where you're giving up Babylon's religion. You're giving up man-made religion and you're coming to your heavenly Father. You're coming to your heavenly Father. Why do you think he allowed this pandemic to come in the sense that all of us have been separated? We've been by ourselves. A lot of y'all understand now. You've been by yourself. And when you're coming into this truth, you find yourself alone for a long time. And some of y'all feeling that. And I understand. You say, man, where's the fellowship? I wish I had the fellowship. Well, it's cool. But you know what? You got to think like this. Maybe the Father left you alone. Maybe he did that on purpose. Do you realize all the prophets were alone? Do you realize that Moses was alone in the wilderness with sheep for 40 years? 40 years. Do you realize Joseph was in Egypt by himself for 20 years? That Abraham was traveling from Ur to Chaldea, left his family and friends for 25 years before he had his son? That sometimes Father separates us so that he can talk to us? Doesn't Hosea say that? Let's take a look. We read Hosea. We studied it recently. Go back and look at that. Hosea chapter 2. Hosea chapter 2. Now, I'm not speaking against fellowship. Fellowship's beautiful. Like I said, we've had some sweet fellowships in our time. That's beautiful. But the Most High will bring the people together. You know what I'm saying? Let his spirit do that. But in Hosea chapter 2, he's talking about his church, his nation. Notice what it says in Hosea chapter 2, beginning at verse 13. And I'm going to read from verse 13 down to verse 8. Verse 18, from 13 unto 19. Let me read 13 to 19. Hosea chapter 2, 13 to 19. And I will visit upon her, talking about his nation, the days of Baalim, wherein she burned incense to them, and she decked herself with her earrings and her jewels. She went after her lovers and forgot me, saith Yahweh. When we talk about lovers, he's talking about other gods. Therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak comfortably unto her. He will what? He will allure you. He will draw you with the conviction of his spirit by his son Messiah. He will allure you and bring you into the wilderness, let you be alone and speak to you. Sometimes people run, the worst thing for some people is quiet. That's the worst thing for some people because they have to think. They have to think about their life and themselves. And people will avoid that at all costs. But for his chosen ones, he wants you to think. He wants you to hear his voice talking to you. And then he's going to deal with you like that. A lot of us are dealing with that. And you wonder why. That's why. Let's continue. And I will give her vineyards from thence, and the valley of Achor for a door of hope. And she shall sing there as in the days of her youth, as in the days when she came up out of the land of Egypt. And it shall be at that day, saith Yahweh, that thou shalt call me Ishi, that is husband. Thou shalt call me no more Baali, or Lord. For I will take away the names of Baalim out of her mouth, and they shall no more be remembered by their name. And in that day will I make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, and with the fowls of heaven, and with the creeping things of the ground. And I will break the bow and sword and battle out of the earth, and I will make them lie down safely. And I will betroth thee unto me forever. Yea, I will betroth thee unto me in righteousness, and in judgment, and in loving kindness, and in mercy. That's why he has us alone. That's why it's quiet. He wants to talk to us. Now, brethren, we don't always be alone. He sent Baruch. He sent Baruch to Jeremiah. And we will get our Baruch. We'll get our Baruch, a couple of families, maybe one family, two families. But don't ever think of yourself like some denomination that needs to grow. They only do that for money. We need growth of Father's Spirit. What would you rather have? Would you rather be in a building of a religion with 1,000 people and no spirit, or just you and 2 or 3 others filled to overflowing with Father's Spirit? People will choose the former, but the awakened will choose the latter, because that's the preparation we need to get past the next few years, which are going to be rough. Okay, brethren? So that's what we're dealing with now. So again, our deliverance is not natural. It's not political. Our deliverance is supernatural. There is no way that our fathers would have escaped Egypt. There is no way Pharaoh would have ever let them go, because they were too valuable to his economy. There is no way the Hebrews will be let go of Babylon today, because we're too valuable to their economy. You know the way Asatan's economy works. The rich get poor, the rich get rich and stay powerful off the backs of the poor. That's just the way his economy always works. The rich get richer and the poor struggle. And he's not letting the poor get out of poverty. Oh, every once in a while, you'll see a person, they get rich, right? And what them person do? They'll say, this is how I got rich, and you can get rich too. And even in that, what they doing? They trying to make money. Let me teach you how I got rich. Every once in a while, he'll let somebody come through just for that, to cause the rest of the people to stay poor while trying to get rich. It's a sucker's game. It's a sucker's game. Remember, brethren, our enemy is a dark spirit named Asatan. He knows who we are. He did not build this economy for us to prosper in it. And the most people you will see prospering in this economy that are Hebrews by blood are people that entertain us. Think about that. They're people that entertain us. He'll let entertainers get rich in his kingdom that are Hebrews. But in order for any man, and I've seen this my firsthand, I used to be a financial advisor. I did that for a long time. I can't remember how long, maybe 20 years. And I've never seen a man get rich being a nice guy. Never. I've never seen a man get rich being a nice guy. Some people got to get hurt for that man to become rich. some heads usually got to get crushed for that person to become wealthy. You don't get rich being nice. You don't get rich being fair and righteous. You do not. You do not. It's like when I used to, back in the days, back in the late 80s, I used to go to these projects in Hartford, Connecticut, Bellevue Square. If you're from Hartford, you know Bellevue Square. I used to go, they don't exist anymore, but I used to go to Bellevue Square and carry my Bible and whatever would come out, right? And some of the kids I used to talk to was dealing crack, because crack was big in the late 80s, man. You know, people was killing each other over corners, selling crack. And some kid, man, that was struggling, man, within a week or 2 weeks, man, he'd have new gear, new sneakers, pocket full of money. And it was hard for me to tell them, you know, how could you say? I would walk into the projects of Bellevue Square, and some of y'all, if you from Hartford, Connecticut, you know what I'm talking about. Dog piss all over the place, dog doo-doo all over the place, people marking up each other's front door. And I mean, one time I came to see a kid, he was standing outside his apartment. What's up? What you doing? Nothing. And I said, what's your grandma? And I knew he stayed with his grandma. And he just said, don't knock, just open the door. I opened the door, brethren, and knives and bottles was flying all over the place. And I closed it back quick. And at the same time that the knives, I'm not lying, the knives and bottles was full. There were little kids watching. And I asked I said, where your Uncle Kenny ready? Oh, he's having sex on the floor with a crackhead. All that at the same time. Kids standing up and said, I ain't doing nothing. That was Bellevue Square. Okay. So you get a kid coming up in that, and you tell him he could carry a couple of bags of stuff, or he could sell a couple of vials on a corner, and all of a sudden, you know, his whole life changes, man. And so what I used to say to them is, have you seen anybody in your young lives be able to retire from selling crack? I said, what happens to, you know, how long, what's the longest you've seen a drug dealer last? And they, at that time, used to see these cats with gold all in their mouth, and they had pimped out their cars, man. And I said, well, have you seen one, you know, past the age of 40, somebody that's your age that grew up doing it? They were either in jail or dead. And I've seen some 15-year-olds laid out in caskets. And so, no, they said, nah, bro, no, I ain't see that. So I said, okay, so think about this. Do you want a few weeks or even a few months of living lives before you get murdered? Or do you want to retire and build something? It's not going to be easy, but you could do it. And brethren, that's the deal. That's the deal. You understand? That's the deal. We got to think longer term, because what I explained to them, I said, brother, so-and-so's on this corner and you on this corner. And both of y'all are getting your crack from the same guys above you, who getting their crack from the same guys above them. And they're going to make money whether you kill him or he kills you. They're going to still get paid. So what does that make y'all? Suckers. Because you're both working for the same people and killing each other. And when you die, guess what? Tomorrow there's another 15-year-old taking your corner until it's his turn. And that's how we got to understand, brother. It's a game. It's rigged. The enemy knows who we are. He knows. And he makes this game to kill us. It's not made for us to make it. On any level. I used to be stupid. Even while I was teaching them that, I was stupid enough to think that I could make it. You know, I get enough degrees and work hard enough, I could make it. Man. Every level I got, there were people with less education. And I'll never forget, I have, like I said, I mentioned, good friend of mine, one of my best friends, been friends for, I've been on Kwaku for 30 years. And he's one of my heroes, man. This brother from Ghana, he came over here. He used to sell peanuts in Ghana, right? Him and his father and his brother come over here. Well, actually, it was just him and his father. Him and his mother and father. His mother and father got divorced in Ghana, and his father came over here with nothing. Started his trucking company. Got remarried, started his trucking company. And was working real hard, man. And you know, the Ghanaians, the Africans, they respect their parents more than we do here in America. So his father told him, he didn't ask him, he said, you're going to be an engineer. You just decide what kind of engineer, because engineers make it in America. So you're going to be an engineer. But my man wanted to get into business because he, you know, even at 12 years old, he was selling peanuts, right? He knew how to run a little business, and his father was self-employed, had his own trucking company. So my man had it in him to run his own business, but he was Ghanaian, and his father said, you're going to be an engineer. So he went to school and got a degree in chemical engineering, okay? Then he joined the Air Force. And he had a degree already, but they wouldn't let him fly planes. He wanted to fly planes. Not this brother. Not this brother. So he couldn't fly planes. Then he hurt his back and got honorably discharged. Then he went and he wanted to go into business, and he had already done what his father asked. So he went to get his MBA, and he worked full-time at night. This is a true story. One of my best friends. He worked full-time at night in the post office, and he went to school full-time in the day to get his MBA. He got his MBA, and he had got hired at the, when I met him, he was at the same bank. He had got his MBA, got his chemical engineering, and so he was asking me, they had him interview me, and he asked me, and we were talking about some mathematics and some financial stuff, and he remembered everything from freshman year at the chemical engineering all the way to the, he remembered, he's like a mind was like a steel trap, remembered everything. And while he was working so hard, he bought some condos and invested in them. He bought himself a little, 318i BMW. He had earned everything he had. I was very proud of him, and I looked up to him. One day, I went through, we were both in this management training program. Now, he shouldn't have been, I was in man, he should have been higher. And he wrote a paper. Nobody asked him to write the paper. He wrote a paper. And in his paper, he was telling how the bank we were in was a year from failing. He had looked at their financials, and he studied it, and he gave it to his boss. And his boss, of course, didn't understand it. My man was way above his boss already, right? But his boss shared it with somebody. It ended up going to the CEO of the bank. And they called him into the office. It's almost like, how did you know this? Like, where'd you get this information from? And he, had wrote this paper on his own. I heard some of the managers talking, and they were saying everything but nigga, because I was there. But, we're going to cut him off at the knees. Who is he to come pulling up here in this BMW? This brother that worked full-time at night and went to school full-time in the day, and even served their country in the Air Force. Who is he to be coming in here like that? We're going to cut him off at the knees. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And after they read his paper, they put it away. They thanked him and put it away. Why? Because they already knew the bank was going to fail. They just wasn't telling the employees. And a year later, the bank failed. And a lot of employees that had been there for 20, 30 years and had their 401k in the company stock lost everything. But my man didn't. And every place he went, they would tell him, oh, you need this, you need that. He went to the next job. They said, oh, you need an accounting degree. Not only he got the master's in accounting, he passed the CPA exam too. Then they said, oh, you need this, whatever they said. And at the end, he said to me, he said, brother, he said, it ain't worth it. No matter what I do, it's never enough. I always have some Caucasian man ahead of me that don't have half my experience or education. And I found the same thing to be true with me. And then I went and I've talked to many others and found the same thing to be true. And I realized as I come into this truth, praise the Most High, I understand this system is against me. It's against all my brothers. No matter how high we are or how low we are, it's against all of us. Because Asatan knows who we are and he wants to destroy us. But he wants us to think we could get something. Brothers and sisters, let me tell you something. Work your jobs, pay your bills as best you can, but don't worry about this one, man. The Most High has a kingdom for us that's better than this one. One that's built for us. One that's built for us. Imagine that. There's a kingdom that's coming very soon that's built for us. It's made for us to prosper. It's made for us to prosper in the spirit, for us to prosper in health, for us to prosper in righteousness in society. It's made for us. This one's not. That's all good. Like I said, if left to itself, this one would destroy itself. There's no doubt this one would destroy itself. The greed and corruption would eat itself like a cancer. But there's one coming that's never going to die. What did he say? The kingdom shall not be left to other people, Daniel said to Nebuchadnezzar, but it shall destroy all these kingdoms and it shall stand forever. Let me finish with that one. Look at that. That's Daniel chapter 2. That's Daniel chapter 2. Man, I love the word of the Most High, man. Love the word of the Most High. Daniel chapter 2. He's telling Nebuchadnezzar, look at this, Daniel chapter 2. Yeah. Daniel chapter 2, verse 44. Daniel chapter 2, verse 44. Verse 44 and 45. Notice what it said. Daniel 2, 44 and 45. Watch this, brethren. In the days of these kings, right now, in the days of these kings, shall the Most High of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much, Daniel says, as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great Most High hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. Yes, brother. There's a kingdom coming that we're being prepared for. Being alone, being separated, getting into the word, getting filled with the spirit. There's a kingdom that we're getting prepared for. They have no corruption in it. There'll be no unrighteousness in it. There'll be no sin and death in it. It's coming very soon. That's why we're being prepared. Brothers and sisters, we're being prepared for a war now as soldiers. And the sword is the word of the Most High. Okay, we're being prepared. And don't worry about it. Yeah, you're going to get tested every day. I know I do. You're going to get tested every day. You're going to get disrespected. You're going to get tried. Be wise as serpents. Brethren, believe me, on my job, no matter what job I'm on, I've lost jobs because I've been fighting. I've lost jobs. And the Most High will bring me back in the circle, back to that same point where I failed. One dude, man, had the nerve to look me up and down. You know, Hebrew didn't take that very well. I ain't end up being on that job. I ain't say nothing to him though. But I guess my look said it all. Like in my mind, I was thinking, man, you 1 second from catching it. Like you 1 second catching it, office or not, right? Man, call me and we're going to take you off the project. I said, okay, man, no problem. Because they was expecting me to beg for the job. I ain't begging y'all for nothing. Of course, I did need the job. But Most High brought me back around, brought me through some trials, man. And I'm back in the same agency. And I got another one of them trying me. So I end up having to pray. Most High, keep your brother. Keep him. Keep your son. Keep your son. Handle it. And he has blessed me. I see him blessing me, guiding me through the minefields that they try to set for me. And that's what he'll do for all of us. He'll do that for all of us. But that's part of our training because it's time. It's time, y'all. Time is at hand. He's getting us prepared. It's time. May the Most High bless you. You're going to fail some tests like me, but you'll pass at the end. He's going to bring you back. And then the next time, you'll pass. Don't worry. He's the teacher. He's the teacher. And he's going to take care of us, and he's going to guide us. We just got to let him. He's going to guide us in his word. He's going to guide us in his spirit. Don't worry, it's not a church. It's not a denomination. We are a nation. We are a scattered nation. Praise the Most High. May the Most High bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom.